In this lesson, we're going to build the upper section of the light design. So you can see we've got the base completed there. We can minimize that down at this stage, and we can reactivate our con layer. So we'll just turn that on. We'll turn off some of the less important con layers for this exercise at this stage. So we're just going to switch off C and D. We want con layer B to be our active layer. That's the layer that we'll be working on. And we can just delete that single construction line there. Okay, to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to build a small construction line in the form of a circle, just tacked on to the end of the point that we had there before. We need to double click on our perspective viewport and then activate the top view there, and all we need to do is key in 40 millimeters. There we go. So that's going to be the basis of our upper light pole. Next, we want to do a construction line to give us the length of that pole. Again, clicking onto that point. We're just going to switch off the layer manager there, left click, and you can see we're clicked on to the point that we had before. And we want to make sure that ortho is snapped on. And we're just going to drag that line up as a polyline, and we'll make it 1125 high. And we're just going to key that in. There you go. That's going to be the upper limit of our post. Right click, we have the point in place, or the line in place. And just so we can deactivate that line later on, we're just going to put a point at the top of it as well. Often I find that quite useful. Okay, zoom out and double check, make sure things are square. Everything should be fine at that point. Now we're going to extrude that circle using the solid extrude, and whereas previously we've just gone straight, this time we'll take the second option down, so it will be solid, extrude planar curve along curve, and be sure to click on the lower section of the line. There you go. So now we have the basis of the post that will form the upper section of the light pole, and we need some brackets on that which will be supporting the traffic light itself. So we're going to use this element here, the upper ring, and we're going to just simply copy that up 500 mils at this stage. We are going to make some modifications, but left click on transform, copy, and just simply drag up on the right viewport 500 millimeters. I'm just going to key that in as 500. This is just a temporary location at this stage. It's going to be something that we're going to move onto a fresh layer. In fact, for the time being, you can see we've got the mounting ring there as well. So we're going to just zoom in again and take the mounting ring as well. So we'll just zoom in. There it is. Copy that as well. So all we need to do is right click on the command bar. It's already copied. So we're just going to move that into the same location. So left click. We're dragging it up to the same point. We simply key in 500. There we go. And you can see on the perspective viewport we now have the adjustment fitting and that mounting ring in combination. We're just going to group that using the commands we've learnt previously, the group command. So there we have it there. And the other element that we're going to use later on in the project is we're going to need this little element here. So the hinge mechanism, we're going to use that as part of the structure to support the traffic light. So in order to copy that up, what we're going to do at this stage is just ungroup the leg. So the opposite side to the grouping command, ungroup there, and we're just going to grab that light, that bracket fitting that we've imported previously, and we'll duplicate that up 500 as well. So we're just going to look on the front viewport there. You can see it highlighted. Transform, copy, and we're just going to move that up 500 so it should be centered in the correct location. There we go. Right click to exit out of the command, and since we've already grouped these legs before, let's regroup them again. So we're just going to grab the elements that we had there so we're not leaving a mess behind us. We can see that element is now grouped. Yep, that's fine. We want both sides, so we need to be flicking between these four viewports, and we're using the group command, so everything's back to the way it was before, and we have a fresh mounting ring and a bracket which we will be able to use at a later stage. Now the next thing I'd like us to be able to do is rotate that ring back onto 90 degrees plus scale it down slightly. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hide the lower structure, which is causing some degree of confusion on the top view there. So we're just going to scroll with the mouse right to left to select the bottom. Then we'll press the hide command. We'll also take the bottom mounting ring, so right click again to hide that, and the adjustment thing. So all we've got at this stage are the items which were made in this lesson on screen. So we've got the upper mounting ring with the adjustment mechanism in it, and we want to scale that down in 2D such that it marries around that post a little bit better. In order to do that, on the top view, we just double click on that. We're just going to use the transform scale 2D command, and we're clicking on the point that we made previously. We'll just drag out to the left, and we're just visually shrinking that bracket down around the post so it's a little bit more snugly fitting around that surface there. Double click on the top view to see what the result is. That's looking good for us, and we need to rotate that just to finish this off into a 90-degree position. So we're just going to use the transform, rotate, click on the point again, and we're going to drag onto the center line. We should be able to see that just between the two. Let's zoom out in a bit. That one should work nicely, and with int on we should just be able to rotate that down with ortho snapped on as well into a position that's square on. That way we'll be able to have these brackets on either side of the mechanism and the adjustment screw clearly in shot. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do now is we're just going to pull that across into a position that we'll be able to fine tune later on. That's fine, and we're just going to hide that element there, and we'll proceed ahead from there. Now, just to finish out this lesson, we're going to be using this bracket here as part of the supporting structure for the traffic light. So we're going to split that at this stage. That way we will be able to have a bolt on either side of the post when we need it at a later stage. So in order to do that, we're going to build a box just on the midpoint, just roughly at this stage, stretch it out and up into position. Then we're using our left mouse key just to drag that box down and into a position such that it divides that little bolt into two halves. Now we select the bolt, and then using the split command, that's just underneath the explode command, halfway down on the left-hand side, it then asks us what we're using as the cutting object there. You can see it on the command bar, and we're selecting the box which we've just put in temporarily there. So we can delete that box now, and you'll see that we now have two even halves that we can then push out in any direction and mirror as we see fit. So in fact what we'll do is, just in order to keep it even at this stage to demonstrate, so it's such that it's symmetrical about the post, I've deleted the back face and I'm using the transform mirror command on the point, and there we've duplicated that into position. So if I press the show command there, you can see, if you have a look on the perspective view, we have the beginnings of the support structure that's going to be used to hang our traffic light design at a later stage. Okay, see you in the next lesson.